Good morning. I heard the dog throwing up a couple of times last night, and I was too tired to get up. Oh, what a mess. She's suffering. I gave her this pet-oriented yogurt, or kefir rather, and I had a few sips of it myself, and I thought it was really good, really creamy, really rich. It really seemed to be quite wholesome. But it loosened up her bowels. I decided to feed it to her one more time and give her the last of it because I look at it as treatment. She's been on antibiotics, 2 courses of antibiotics, so it's time to replace the bacteria in her gut with the good stuff. Enough time has gone by so the antibiotics can do their business and she can get back to normal. So here it is at 1:42 in the morning. I got up much earlier. Spent quite a bit of time getting this stuff out of the carpet in a couple of places. It's pretty bad. And she went outside. She's got the runs again. So probably make a phone call up to that manufacturer. They have it marked as raw, not safe for human consumption, might contain harmful bacteria. Well, didn't harm me. Sure harmed my puppy dog. And it was $10 a quart. I'm not going to be, and I did it because I thought, man, this might be good for my dog. I like to use this stuff for myself. Well, lesson learned. We tried it. It didn't work. She sure liked sucking it down. She loved the taste. She loved it. But after 2 meals with that on the topping, and we're done with it. Okay. This is going to be 109. And this morning it's should be the 9th of February. I haven't checked, but I'm pretty sure it's the 9th. Yeah, it's the 9th. Just barely after midnight, slightly. Don't have my hearing aids in. They are working better, but they still are pretty painful. And I'm having some difficulties with them. But overall, I think they're an improvement. Hopefully we'll get these things set right and I'll get adjusted to them. So I don't have them in. I like the sound. It's a lot more comfortable. I've thought of a lot of things to tell you about the last 48 hours, actually. I haven't recorded in a while. I put up 3 videos in a row, and I've refrained here. I'm refraining because I'm about to call people out for their treasonous behavior, for being traitors. Some are traitorous, treasonous rat bastards. Others are just unwitting, treasonous people that are dupes, that are stupid, don't know what the hell they're doing. And when I call it out, put these public figures' names in the title, that's going to be clickbait for sure. But I got to be real careful what I say because they can all afford better attorneys than I can afford. They can afford anything they want. But the fact is that you do not get on the media and you don't get syndicated unless you worship certain of the gods that have been created to our churches. Golden calves that shouldn't exist. And most of them are not America firsters. And that's the number one thing we need to look at these politicians by. If they put another country's interest ahead of our interest, they should be cut right out. They should be kicked right out of office. Shouldn't be allowed in office. And I know a lot of you think that your boy Trump is a good guy, but Sheldon Adele led him by the nose, and he got his money's worth out of Trump. And I think it's real sad because Trump is a liar and a thief. I know, I don't like saying it because I'd still put him in office because he's the best we've got. That's how bad it is. Well, or there's me. I don't know how good I would be in it. I mean, my emotions get to me a little too much. And I haven't got years of experience in negotiating or selling things, selling people out either. But Trump stole land from another nation and gave it to another nation. What business does he have stealing land out from the neighbors and awarding it to the other neighbors? He has no business doing that. That is a thief. I don't care if he does it while wearing the President of the United States hat. You know, wearing that big hat and carrying that mite around. He still stole the land. It still doesn't belong to the country he gave it to. That's theft. That is theft. Now, I don't mind that he moved the capital of Israel to Jerusalem. There's probably something, if I think about it, that will come up that I won't like that for. But I mean, when you get down to it, as the executive, the chief executive, I think it's his privilege to decide where he wants the capital and to move it and to spend the money doing that. I mean, I'd rather we didn't spend the money at all. Brought this federal government budget down in size drastically. So I'm not that against him having moved the capital from Haifa to Jerusalem. Is it antagonizing other peoples? Well, perhaps, but I think that's kosher. I think it's okay. I don't think it's a wonderful, great thing to do. But this stuff about giving land, taking Syria's land and giving it to the neighbor, and then they name it after his butt? Trump Heights? Come on, folks. That's outright theft. You can't be doing that. But of course, I guess we got nothing but liars and thieves and murderers in D.C. They stole the oligarch's property. What business do they have stealing anybody's property? Isn't that against God's laws? Yes, it is. And so we shouldn't be stealing people's property, claiming we're in the right, especially when it comes to the Ukraine. And all of those boys in the Mockingbird media that talk about how we could clean their clocks, we could step right in there and take care of it. They all should be barred from any more airtime. Especially that jackass. I think Michael Savage nicknamed him the Leprechaun. Sorry, man, but that son of a bitch has been writing about murder so much. He loves murder. He loves killing. So now he wants to step up and kill Russians just for the heck of it. I got news for you. Putin is absolutely right in this action. He's got legal standing to do what he's doing. And we don't have any standing, really. If it gets heard in a proper court of law, the United States goes down over this. We basically set this shit up. Barack Obama and John Brennan set this up. And we have our Department of Defense building bioweapons labs on the border of Russia to experiment on the people over there. Well, they're already doing it here at home, so I guess they got to bring it abroad too. I'm sorry, folks, but I think what we've done over there is horrible. And NATO should have been gone a long time ago. There was no reason for it. The problem now is just an extension of the criminal organization, the mafia, the mob. It's an extension and a misuse of American might and treasure. It's a misrepresentation of the American people, that's for sure. This government is out of control. And you've got Anthony Blinken, the fellow who invented pipeline diplomacy. Blowing up your neighbor's pipeline for giggles and grins. He blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. That torpedoed who? Well, it certainly didn't help the Russians any, but it actually destroyed German economy more than anything else. What kind of ally is that? The United States destroys Germany so that they will no longer have an industry? What, are we that jealous over the Germans and their technology? Over their abilities to produce better products than we do here? By God, if Porsche was more reliable, then everybody should drive one, as far as I'm concerned. The roads would be a heck of a lot safer. You'd have brakes. They don't put power in their cars without giving it adequate brakes. That's one thing I can say for Porsche. And their technology is pretty doggone good. We have screwed up. That last century was a horrible century. Right from the beginnings, right from the get-go. We let the mob of England, that royal mob who usurped power, who does not belong on the throne at all. We allowed them to manipulate us into that war against Germany. Most of our nation was populated by Germans, and so it was a hell of a brainwashing effort using the media that we had at the time, the mass media we had at the time, the newspapers and the big, I don't know what to call those tycoons that own the newspapers, like, I guess Randolph Hearst, whatever the name was. The one whose daughter rebelled against him and took off. Look, we are one screwed up nation. We have no business conducting these affairs abroad the way we do it. And of course, the worst thing is that our own government has turned on our own people. They've been killing us for years. They've been shortening our lives left and right. They've been outright murdering us. Some of us is just slow kill technology where they put crap mandated by federal law into your clothes that causes cancer. And what do we have? 100,000 or perhaps 300,000 new compounds that have never been tested that we're exposing people to all the time? Most of you don't know about the thalidomide babies. You weren't around to see that. And I was barely old enough to hear about it. I was a child at the time, 5 years of age, and I remember all these babies born with really bizarre birth defects. Just frickin' bizarre. And yet these physicians kept prescribing thalidomide. We couldn't get them to stop the thalidomide for a couple of years at least. And that's the way it is with this other bullshit they pull on us. They actually do stuff that harms us. Today we're not free to discuss it. We have no free speech rights. Everything has to be done by consensus, and science is not consensus. Consensus is never science. That's bullshit. Yet I get a strike because I violated the consensus of the World Health Organization, which is busy overseeing the genocide, as far as I can tell. Now, I'm not going to get into that stuff much. Every one of these politicians lies. They're all thieves. Many are just flat out traitors. A lot of them are warmongers. And in case you're wondering, the God of America is Molech. The God of war, the God of child sacrifice. Those are our gods today. Look at the statues, the figures on top of your major institutions. By God, they even put Madonna on top of one. I think it was a courthouse in New York City. Yeah, the Queen of Heaven. She does her hair up like that now, and they put the statues up there like that, where there's braids that look like ram's horns, you know. And she's uglier than sin. I'm sorry. She's bloated. She's old. She's wicked. She looks horrible. And they're going to openly worship Satan on television in the Grammys or whatever the hell awards going on. I'm sorry, folks. If I was president, they would not have a license. Those institutions would not have a license, would never get one again. And you'd say, well, that's not free speech. Well, when they're busy destroying your nation, using such symbolism and such free speech, it's time to go after them. God, I'd make a good dictator. I mean, the first thing I would do would be to shut these borders down and declare a moratorium on all immigration, including asylum seekers, for a minimum of a decade, just to get started. And I would order the shutting down of the borders in both directions, so those bastards who are here harming us would not get out without consequences. And I would go through this population and sort out what we have. And I would take all those people that are doing things illegally here and been on the dole. I would remove the dole from them, all those foreigners that get disability through Medicare. What business? Oh, and they get it like that. They get it like that. By the practices of our central government, if one of those medical examiners for Social Security disability does not give it to a foreigner immediately, they lose their jobs. If they have 2 rejections in a 6-month period, they lose their jobs. So they'll give it to a black from Africa, but a black locally? Oh, hell no. They're going to deny it left and right. Why? They're trying to create as much strife as they can. They're trying to create as much injustice and have as much wickedness reign as possible. Now, there's a guy in the Bible called the man of lawlessness. I believe that's what Barack Obama was and is in his 3rd presidency today, his 3rd term. He's going to have a 4th term because you son of a bitches, dumbasses out there won't wake up and jail his ass. He's in office illegally. And then you got other people that have already sworn that they were going to destroy the United States of America if it was the last thing they did. And we still continue to offer citizenship? And we let them live in our borders with us? I'm sorry, folks. Man, if I was going to use special forces for anything, I'd be sending them against those guys. And I'd be telling them, you'll pick them up with prejudice. Any of their bullshit bodyguards give you any crap, just do them. And if they give you any crap, do them on the spot too. If they refuse to submit and to come into custody, it's over for them. And by the way, that black boy in Tennessee, I shouldn't say boy because y'all say I'm racist when I say that. Well, some people try to make me to be racist. I didn't watch the video, but people have told me that far as they could see, he had been resisting from the get-go. And it aggravated the police. And the police, what are you doing? Putting together a special unit, calling it the Scorpion Unit. My God. You've empowered them and emboldened them psychologically off the charts. I'm going to have to watch that video. Because if I find that young man resisted the police from the beginning, that changes things quite a bit. Look, folks, I don't like it when the police give me orders, but I follow them. I don't want them killing me. And in case you're wondering, this stuff with Kathy Hochul taking away your guns in New York State, they're doing their best to make you vulnerable so you can become a victim of crime. And if you think that things are bad now, wait till you see in the near future. It's going to be real bad because you've got all these libtards in these Democrat-run cities who want to let everybody off for their crimes because reparations or some other bullshit like that. And of course, most of the crime is going to occur in the black community. By blacks against blacks. And we're going to let that go on. I'm sorry, folks. But those folks have been through way too damn much. This whole country's been through too much. And as far as equality before the law, equal justice and all that, everybody knows that's bullshit. They know the politicians can get away with murder, literally. What's the biggest lie in America today? They keep saying the same damn lie. And that lie is all men are created equal. Really? So why am I not throwing passes for the New England Patriots and having a supermodel like Giselle for myself? Huh? Not that I'd wish that on even Tom Brady at this point, because I don't think he's any good for anybody. We aren't born equal. We're born with different talents. Yahweh forms you in the womb, or maybe even before you get into the womb. When he puts that spark of life, that energy, when the egg and the sperm unite, when conception occurs, and that little shock, that spark of electrical flash literally goes off, and that soul is melded into that body. Who do you think's in charge? Don't you think genetics and breeding count for anything? Oh, I know that's offensive as can be, right? We can't talk about genetics and breeding. Well, let's talk about it for a little bit. Most of your intelligence is inherited from mom. So men, when you pick a dumbass woman to be your wife or to be the mother of your children, you're sentencing your children to be of lesser intelligence. Now, before you women get carried away and think that you've got it all high and mighty and you're in charge of shit, which is the worst thing in the world as far as I can see, caused a lot of trouble. You need to think of this, that a man's character is what the children inherit from their fathers. And whatever a man does in his life gets imprinted on his DNA and goes to his children. The woman, not so much. But her behavior and her example, oh yeah. Especially on daughters. Slutty mother, slutty daughter. That's usually the way it is. And as far as the criminality, we know that fatherless parenting causes criminality. We have the stats in for boys. 70% of boys reared by mother alone have problems with the criminal justice system, whereas only 6% of boys reared by intact family, mother and father together, or only 6% of boys reared by father alone have problems with the criminal justice system. So why do we keep on awarding custody automatically to the women, and they get to use the children as weapons over us to hold them over our heads? It's not right. And then women scream that it's their bodies. It's their right. They can kill that child anytime they want. They won't even wait till the child's born. My God, if they'd have had that when I was a little boy, my mom sure as hell would have killed me. Women have emotionality and emotional problems and emotional instability. And the reasons for that is that there's a lot more chemistry going on with being a woman than being a man. It is a balancing act. And women are given extra capacities beyond what a man is given for the purposes of motherhood. And when a woman misuses those capacities for womanly ends, she drives herself crazy, and the rest of us crazy too. And whenever women's sexuality, female sexuality, becomes unbridled, which it has in this nation, badly, that we know two things. Number one, you can't put that genie back in the bottle. Okay? May have happened one time, though. And it might be able to happen again. Especially if I become president, it will be happening. The problem is that every civilization that has tolerated unbridled female sexuality, uncontrolled, has ceased to exist. They all go extinct. Herr Hitler did things differently. I think he figured out how to overcome all that stuff. He actually was good for something. That's right. But women have gone so crazy that I don't think they're worth defending anymore. I mean, why should a man put his life on the line to defend an irate woman who afterwards will say, "Oh, you didn't need to do that. I don't need no man." Yeah, let them go, fellas. Let them defend themselves. They won't learn. They won't respect. They won't respect us at all. And our corporations are busy out there, especially with their commercials and the themes of their movies and television shows, making all men look dumb. And the women looking like superheroes, and they can do it all. Whereas what really is happening is we're leaving women in unprotected places, and they should be sheltered and protected so that they can take care of everything. That's what they're supposed to do. They've actually got a big role. It's a big role. It's big, all right. Imagine this. You're a woman. You got children. You got to take care of your children. You got a husband. You got to take care of your husband. You got pets. You're the one taking care of the pets. You got a household. You're the one running the household, taking care of the household. Pretty much. And then they're telling, oh, you can go out there and get an education and have it all and be a professional. And you can delay having children till you're no longer fertile. What a lie has been sold to women, and they love it so. Back when we had a stable society, women competed more than men. And the competition was a lot more intense, a lot more serious, and it was a lot different than what you think. They didn't compete openly in sports like men did, not much anyway. They didn't compete much for money in particular, no, but they competed for husbands. They competed for good men. They competed to marry a man whose name they could take and whose honor and position they could take. And that became a team. And the reason America was so great is because before the Industrial Revolution, all hands were on deck. Husbands and wives were on, what do we call those things? They were on the homestead together. They were on the farm together. They were rearing the children together. So if a wife needed backing up, if a mother needed backing up when disciplining the children, she had it immediately. It wasn't wait till your father gets home sort of bullshit. It was dad's right here. And dad and mom work together as a team. But now we have all this conquer and divide bullshit going on where they want to separate men and women, and they've done a good job of it. They have destroyed the American family. This no-fault divorce is the worst thing that's ever happened. And men, do not get married. It's not worth it. The squeeze is not worth. It's not worth it. They aren't worth it anymore. They become manipulative. They use these extra skills that they have to become manipulators and to run game on the rest of us. And the only way to win is not to play the game. So, walk off. One of the first questions you need to ask, if you really are thinking seriously of pairing off with a woman, is what's her body count? Ask her straight up. If she gets pissed off, so what? So what? What it matters is that if she's gone beyond 5, she's not going to be able to bond with anybody. She has overridden her natural bodily chemistry, which Yahweh, Creator, Father God, gave her, so that she would stay paired up with her husband. So she no longer responds to her natural chemistry. She's destroyed it. She's overridden the system. And so she's going to have trouble bonding. And these women are out there acting like, well, they can do it too. No problem. Not realizing that they actually carry the imprint of every sex partner in their lives beyond the grave. That stays with them into eternity, according to the Eastern technology from the ancient scriptures, which, by the way, they might know something. They might have known something because it's written in binary language. What other language is binary? Computer language. That's just written in computer language. Binary language. It's the old technology. And they give you several warnings. And one of those is that a woman, there's more to a woman than a man, and she hurts herself for eternity by playing around, by screwing around and uniting her aura with too many men. A man doesn't wear that into eternity. It doesn't keep going because he's not that big. Women are given extra power, extra nerve strength. My God, my grandmother told me men could be brave, but they weren't any good when it came to sickness. They couldn't handle it. She's right. We men don't have the nerve strength that women have. But you have to remember my grandmother was quite a bit different. My grandmother was college educated more than a century ago. She graduated from Mount Holyoke. She impacted so many people in that little town of Newmarket that we couldn't have the funeral in the funeral home. As a matter of fact, we did it in the church, but more than half of the people were outside the church. They wouldn't even fit into the church downtown. She had touched so many lives. She was so magnanimous. And by the way, when free love started up the hippie era, my grandmother was upset because, as she said, and I'll say to you, and this is wisdom, women are the backbone of our morality. you don't realize the backbone is there supporting the entire body until it's gone. So women in their competition have rushed to the most common denominator, to the lowest possible behavior. We were dedicated to the god of Molech. Almost 100 years ago, there was a ceremony done in the middle of the country in 1933 that was a recreation, and they did it twice. A child sacrifice right in public in front of everybody. My understanding is that those were female babies that they burned. They sacrificed to the god Molech. You need to understand there's an evil on this planet. Stop trying to say people would never do that. Stop trying to judge people by your own good character, your own good constitution, your own sense of right and wrong. They actually worship evil. And they own and run the place. They've been running it since before the time of Jesus Christ. You're Jesus Christ. If you really love the dude, why don't you learn his real name? Buy one of my Bibles. It'll help you tremendously. That's the purpose of that Bible, is to correct you and give you the proper name of Yahweh and Yahshua, so that you might be able to abide by the first of the 10 commandments. If you're going to have no other gods before him, don't you think you ought to know his name? So get that Bible, hit that link. There's 5 drop-down box. There's a drop-down box with 5 different formats available. That's the cheapest price you're going to be able to get these Bibles anywhere. You need to read these Bibles if you want to defend yourself. You don't defend yourselves with guns, although you will be using guns quite a bit in the near future. Yeah, the wicked ones, the guys that decide to take the country down and set this thing up, they're going to do it. You have to understand, I don't think much is going to be able to stop them. The only thing that's going to stop them is if you get off your ass and get on your ass. How do I say that? Sounds pretty contradictory, doesn't it? Well, you need to buy one of my Bibles, and you need to get on your ass, sit and read it, and discipline yourself, educate yourself, access the mind of Creator Father Yahweh. Program yourself up with good stuff. When you read the Bible and you understand those stories, you start to realize the deception that's going on. You're less likely to be deceived. You're not as deceivable. It buffets you. It strengthens you. It edifies you. And he goes to war for you. If you do his will, and he's got it there in black and white, you can read what the 10 Commandments are. You can apply those, and you can get the rewards, the benefits, pretty much immediately. This is the foundation for all Western civilization, which they've decided they want to destroy. They actually want to destroy everybody on the planet as best they can. Why? The great event is coming, and they want to be able to dig in and survive it and come out on top, and they don't want as many of us alive afterwards to have to deal with. They have done this several times before. They've been on the planet, by my estimation, 72,000 years. They've been through 6 of these earth ages, this great turmoil, which has an ice age in it, by the way. They know about this stuff. They've got the books, the recordings. They've got the maps of the earth at these different times and different stages. They have all of that. We don't have access to that. And they have dug in before. And they've come out on top every time. Evil rules this planet. However, if I read the Bible correctly, and I think I do, this is the last time they get to go underground, and most of them will die in those underground places. They will not make it. And why do I tell you? Well, it's because it's a done deal. See, Richard Milhous Nixon signed the executive order to prepare the country for this great event and to deceive even the scientific community. of any knowledge of this at all. They buried it, they hid it, but there was a problem. You see, by failing to turn to the community at large, failing to turn to humanity at large, they lacked the proper inputs and they made bad decisions. They built this stuff, these dumbs, which are dumb as hell, man, these deep underground military bases, they built them in the wrong spots. And they're going to be nothing but tombs. People go into those, aren't going to be coming out, for the most part. And there are going to be some survivors, from what I can see in the Bible, and our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren will be hunting those bastards down for quite a while, probably a few centuries. It's in there. It says clearly that we're going to be going after them and hunting them. We're not going to give up on them and let them do their mischief again. They've done it too many times. And there's only 2 warring factions on the planet. If you read the Bible, you would know this stuff. And they talk about white supremacy. Why is that? Because they know that the descendants of Israel, the man, are chosen and are capable of defeating them. The rest of humanity ain't capable. And they know that. So they're using the rest of humanity against the Israelites today. That's why there's all this problem in the Caucasoid populations among the white people. Because the enemy knows who we are. They know who they are. And we don't know who they are. We don't even know who we are. And so we are at great disadvantage. So, do you know why you're called Caucasian? Come on, think. You're named Caucasian after the Caucasus mountain range. Why? Our ancestors, generally speaking, our grandparents, migrated across the Caucasus mountain range in 3 giant waves, approximately, a little after 722 BC. As a matter of fact, the next question you should be asking is, really, where did we come from before then? Well, we broke into Europe and the rest of the world in places that had not been inhabited by Israelites or Adam kind. And before that, we came from the northern house of Israel. And we went through and migrated through a place called the Darryl Pass, Darryl, which is also has a second name, and it's chiseled in stone there in the walls of the pass, in stone for all to see, in Paleo-Hebrew, the old language, which has no consonants, all consonants, has no vowels in it, the gates of Israel. They don't want you to know you're the real deal. They got their lying pastors and their priests telling you, you're a Gentile, grafted in by grace. Bullshit. You're the real deal. And you're subject to all the sentencing, all of the curses for disobedience on the 10 Commandments. Go read that section of the Bible and tell me you don't read the United States of America today, that the United States of America today is not suffering all of those curses for disobedience. It's in Leviticus and Deuteronomy in the Bible. Your 10 Commandments are in Exodus chapter 20. Verse 4 is how you relate to Yahweh, Creator, Father, God. The next 6 are how you relate to each other. But then, in Deuteronomy and Leviticus, they actually expand upon the blessings for obedience and the consequences for disobedience. And the evil ones do their best to guide us towards the disobedience. They do a good job of it. They bring us all kinds of things to distract us. They bring us alcohol, they bring us drugs, they bring us the sex trade, they bring us their god Molech with child sacrifice, they bring us cannibalism where people eat human flesh. They bring us all kinds of bad practices, which Yahweh forbids. And so you may think that you're living at a time in which there's coexistence. There is no coexistence. These folks The evil ones won't tolerate you and I. They don't want to coexist. They want to destroy us. That's why they've gone after the family. That's why they go after the kids right now, and they're screwing the kids up and putting all kinds of pressure on these children, claiming that they're only treating the children right and proper. And in case you're wondering, the violence is going to be coming from those kids that you're protecting today. I don't even want to fund this education system because I know what the outcome is. They're going to produce more little spoiled brats that are going to do crimes against old people. They are going to produce more criminals. That's their goal, is to cause more criminality. Yeah, the Democrats are ugly as can be. If I was president, I'd round up the Democrats. I'd ban their damn religion or whatever the hell you want to call that movement of theirs, that cult bullshit that puts Satan forward. And I'd tell the Republicans, okay, you guys better split up and make some new parties. And you better mind your P's and Q's, or the same thing is going to happen to you that happened to the damn Democrats. And they are damn Democrats. And the Republicans are betrayers, which is even a worse offense. Like Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and you've got all those mockingbird media guys trying to convince you that we just have held back too much. We need to go to war more in the Ukraine. Folks, you don't understand. Putin is in the right in this one. He's going to win it, hands down. Now, the question is, are you going to be a dumbass and go along with their bullshit, thinking you're the biggest and the greatest in the world, when in fact they're setting you up so they can nuke you? Barack Obama set this up. His policy has not been changed. Even your boy Trump didn't change it. They get to nuke us first. There's no more launch on warning. There's no more mutually assured destruction. They're actually being coaxed and goaded into striking us first. Because according to the policy set forward by Barack Obama and by our generals like that jackass traitor General Milley, we're not going to retaliate until we've assessed the damage. Meaning, not for a full day. And if I was the enemy, hell, I'd be banging away at us. And once you start, you can't stop. You need to take out our armament, and they will take it out. It's been prophesied by the seer in South Africa, by the way. He said that in 24 hours, we would lose our armament. Period. All gone. And in case you're wondering, this trial balloon, yeah, that's what it was. They floated that thing across the country to get you used to it so you would tolerate it. So when they decide they're going to take us out with an EMP strike, which our own government will help them do, if not actually do it in the names of the Chi-Coms, they're going to float about 8 balloons over the continent of America up at high altitude, and they're going to detonate electromagnetic pulses, and they're going to kill 90% of us, not very directly, but within a year, 90% of us will be dead. That'll be it. You can't rebuild from that. You're not going to rebuild from that. And you're going to say, oh, they'd never do that. We're the strongest and the greatest. They can't do that to us. Yeah, you dumbass. I was raised in a dumbass family. They wouldn't listen to me in the warnings and stuff. They constantly ridiculed me and put down the knowledge and the warnings I brought them. Tried to warn them about, well, I can't talk about that. I'd get a strike if I did, right? So let's forget about that. And so that bullshit and loss of freedom of speech, it's going on, man. I would love to be president. I would take the reins of power like you would not believe. I'd have to appoint some pretty strong men underneath me to take some controls and help me out, to keep me on track. But we would defend our borders. I would call for the immediate formation of all militias. And the militias operate independently of the other branches of government. It was self-rule by the people. And if your legislator didn't mind their P's and Q's and do their job, the militia stepped in and forced them to do it. We did it in New Hampshire, the incident of Exeter. So you need your militias. We need those. And Barack and St. Obama was right. We need that Homeland Security, the real army at home, at least as big as the one that we use abroad. Folks, a lot of these states have never had militias. And read the Constitution. Do something, get off your ass and read that thing. And find out what the militias were tasked with. Then you'll understand why you need them. And I would immediately call for tariffs and duties at the borders. Immediately. And the second thing I would do would be to declare no more income tax, no more non-profit status, non-governmental agency privileges, or any of that bullshit. I'd be leveling the playing field. And how would I be doing that? Everybody inside is equal. Nobody can use the government to give them a leg up over their competition. And I would immediately tell Congress, you go home. You're not going to represent these people anymore. We're going to do a voluntary Congress, and Congress is going to do its job. And if a bill for appropriations does not originate in the Congress, it's unconstitutional. The senators aren't allowed to do that. And I'd ship the senators home too, saying you're not going to represent anybody anymore. We're taking away all pay and benefits. We're going to actually put you in protective custody and figure out how much you've milked this country for and the crimes you've committed. Yeah, we're going to do that. And then I'm going to tell the states, you will send from your state legislatures 2 people to be your senators before the federal government, representing your state government. And they're subject to instant recall. Not only that, you're going to pay their wages and benefits as you deem necessary. But as far as Congress, no more pay and benefits. Sure, we'll give them a per diem, but they can't miss votes. They can't be voting in absentia. You got to vote in person. If you're not well enough, then go home. And you got to pay for your own health insurance. If you can't afford to pay for it, then go home. Go back to work. Don't be a deadbeat requiring public welfare. If you can't be successful enough managing your own money, then how can you manage the purse strings of the American public properly? You can't. There's no need for term limits. You just tell those folks, we're going to give you a simple per diem. And it's not the full cost. We're not going to pay for your room and board. We're going to give you a little bit of an allowance to help defray the cost. But you are volunteering your time for your nation. And we're not expecting you to be a career politician. We're not expecting you to retire here in office at all. And you're not getting any retirement from us anyway. We ought to go after all those retirements and benefits on those old guys because they're all guilty of treason. They've all screwed up. They've all lied by many different things. Oh. And then we're going to go back to being citizens of our several states. No more of this landed bullshit. And we're going to go back to common law courts under the Constitution and no longer this maritime commercial admiralty law that are courts that are incorporated whose sole purpose is to make judges wealthy. And I want to do a couple of other things too. The blue line. They're going to wear blue again, not this black again. That's going to be reserved for SWAT teams. But they're going to have to wear powder blue, a bright blue. I want them standing out. And yeah, we'll defend them. We'll sentence people to death who try to kill them, who kill them. However, the qualification is this. If a police officer ever lies, it's a capital offense. And the same with the judges. If a judge ever lies, it's a capital offense. Because our lives depend upon those people to be honest and truthful. And if they're not honest and truthful, then off with their heads. That's not my idea. I borrowed it from a millwright. The guy was dead serious about this stuff. He had to face down 5 police officers in Tempe, Arizona, who were lying about him and giving him grief because he was down there watching the girls. What the hell's wrong with that? Those co-eds, what's wrong with that? They're beautiful. God give them everything. They're the most beautiful they're ever going to be in their entire lives. He wasn't harming anybody. You know what saved the police officers? That's right. I'm not saying saved his ass. That man was prepared to die, and he was prepared to go to combat with those officers. 5 cops, lying son of a bitches, lying, I can't say the word here, I just don't want to say that word. Multisyllabic. Were saved when a state police officer walked up and broke ranks through those jackass police officers in Tempe and yelled at his buddy from the military saying, "Staff Sergeant, da-da-da, how are you? How you doing?" And the police officers are giving him grief because they're ready to shoot this guy. All 5 of them are ready to draw their guns on him and shoot him because they can get away with that shit. Because of the stupid judges in Arizona. Allow that stuff to happen. And one of the police officers started to tell what the charge or the problem or the complaint was, and the trooper, if you will, the state police officer, turned and said to him, "You lying whatever," he called the police officer. And he looked at him and he says, "You men are lucky." He says, 3 of you would have been dead. I fought with this man. I know what he's capable of. He would have taken 3 of you out before he would have gone himself, but he'd have done it. 3 of you would have been dead. He was that good of a warrior. So you're going to kill a man because he's looking at babes. He's looking at girls. He's looking at college co-eds. My God, college co-eds aren't even getting enough attention from their male colleagues anymore. Do you realize that the second highest rate of suicide in the country is in college co-eds? Females? They kill themselves real serious ways now. They don't just overdose. They hang themselves. They shoot themselves. It's real serious. The only reason you don't know about it is because the 21 a day or 22 a day military men who take their lives each and every day, that's a greater number, and they get all the publicity. But these poor girls in college, things are so bad in their lives, so they think that their lives aren't worth it. So they take their lives at the second highest rate in the land. You don't care. I was looking at a job down there. I was looking to go do my job, and I did a little field work down there, and I saw these beautiful women walking the streets down there. Oh, my Lord. I mean, they were just, and they were precious at that. And I watched these girls and their fellow students. And what do you call a man? He's not a co-ed, but they didn't pay any attention to these beautiful young women. And these women were totally aware of the men, and I could see them looking, wishing they could get some attention, just longing for some love, for some attention, for some sincere interest. But we've sunk to the lowest common denominator. We no longer value a good girl who saves herself for marriage. We no longer empower the good ones. We empower the bad ones. If you are a young man thinking of getting married, do not get married without a prenuptial. And that prenuptial needs to have a fidelity clause, because I can pretty much guarantee she's going to cheat on you. And when she does, and you want a divorce, you don't want to give up half of your shit to somebody who's rewarded for breach of contract, for somebody who's awarded prizes and goodies for breaking the contract. You don't want that. And then on top of that, you might as well put in there that if you have children, that you get custody. Maybe sole custody, let them walk, don't require child support of them. Put that in there. You won't require child support from her, but you want sole custody. You want to be left alone. You want to be able to have your children. Put that in there if you want your children. My advice is not to get married with one of these state licenses. Form your own contract. And if a woman's not willing to do that, there's a problem. These women all lay in wait. They all figure out what they're going to get in the divorce before they get the marriage going. They are far more competitive than the men are. They're far more aggressive. They're far more dangerous. There's nothing fair about them. They don't play fair. They don't fight fair. Look at how they treat each other. Look at the competition between women. They compete on all levels. We men have got it pretty easy in comparison. We only compete upon our status, our power, and our wallets. That's about it. That's all that matters. Most of these women think we're just a wallet. That's all they care about. And they wonder why we're not interested in them. And in case you're wondering, fellas, 20% of the babies born to you are fathered by another man. Don't you think that it should be the law of the land that a paternity test be conducted on every child? I think it should. Let's make it the law of the land. Let's take it a step further. Don't you think that men should have their rights, abortion rights too? I mean, we've never had our abortion rights acknowledged. And the fact is, that's part of our bodies too. We have a vested interest in that. I think it should be the law of the land that the consent of the male is required to get an abortion. And if the man will not consent, there's a reason for it. And if a man won't consent, then she can go before a judge and get the judge to approve it, prove her case. But if a man is not told about his child, how can he defend his child? How can he defend his interests? So a man needs to know that he's about to be a father. And a man should have the right to walk before a judge and say, Your Honor, I want my child. Do not let her abort my child. Do not let her murder our child. If she doesn't want the child, I will take the child. And the judge should say, Young lady, you're going to carry this child to full term, and if there's anything untoward about the birth of the child, any drugs found in the child's body, for instance, any defects because you drank too much alcohol or low birth weight because you smoke cigarettes, if you've done anything to harm this baby, then you're going to be spending a year in prison. We're going to make you a felon. Women need to be held accountable. We don't do it in this country. We've never done it. We've always given them the advantage, and look at where it's gotten us. They are destroying our civilization. They have destroyed America. They voted for Barack Obama and put him in office. Voting is a state's issue. Likewise, let's at least let abortion be a state's issue. If they want us to have diversity, then let us have diversity of law within our own boundaries as our individual independent republics. That's why there never should have been the suffragette march to require the federal government step in and dictate that women get the right to vote. That needs to return to the states, because in some states, I think it's only a married man, head of household, that got to vote. I think in other states, it's only a man who owns property who got to vote, who paid taxes. They had different laws in different places. I wouldn't be surprised if someplace it was like only the man was able to cast the vote, and he had to be married. Or women could vote in some places, but they had to own property and pay taxes. I don't know, and I don't care. It's up to the state to decide that. It's not our business. We shouldn't step in. And if we really love these other people around the world, we'd let them have their own self-determination, especially Haiti after all they've been through over there. My God, all we do is predate upon them. They don't want to see us again in there. Listen to those poor people. I mean, if you really wanted to help the Haitian people, it'd be pretty simple. We need to apologize for past insults and grievances. And what we could do is give those people a decent sewage system and water treatment plants. I mean, that would be a gift. That would be benefiting that population. Give them some sanitation services, some waste management, recycling systems, water treatment. Send in the Army Corps of Engineers, just the Corps of Engineers, and have them build the stuff and give it to those people and leave them alone. Get out of the country. Let them rule themselves instead of setting up these false attacks based upon lies. Instead of predating upon these other countries, other peoples, and their resources by lying and setting up a regime to take them down, like we did in the Ukraine in 2014. We interfered in a properly, duly elected government in the Ukraine, and we took that down. And we signed those Minsk Accords, or whoever did. Angela Merkel even admitted they didn't intend for there to be peace. They were just in a holding pattern so they could get ready for war. Ditch Mitch. He's horrible. How many kilos of heroin were found on that ship of his? I don't know. You never hear about stuff like that. It doesn't make it in the news because those fat cats are protected. The FBI doesn't do its job, so why do we even bother funding them? Let's take them apart. The CIA doesn't do its job, or does a job we don't want done, like killing our presidents, and the FBI covers up the killing of our presidents. Let's do away with them as well. I'd love to be president to straighten this country out. It would be very difficult upon me. It would probably shorten my life quite a bit. The stress and the strain would probably cut off a few days, but I'd make that sacrifice. You don't get to take anything with you. I would just love to reestablish proper self-rule, free of Great Britain for a change, and free of the Pope. In case you're wondering about this beast system, you can go read about it in the Bible, in the book of Daniel. I got to sign off, folks. I just looked at the time and it went over an hour. So this is show 109, Giving Psychology Away. I'm not going to give it any other title. We banged around from one topic to the other. I hope you get something from this. I hope you'll share the show. I hope you'll leave a comment. I mean, I really thank the people that do that, because you're making this happen. My content's not making it happen. You're making this happen. I'd like to save the country. I think we need to do that together. I think we do that by discussing things and arguing intellectually about things. I don't advocate for any violence. I don't advocate for overthrow, but I advocate that we ignore and we replace. We actually form proper government, a proper organic government, and get rid of this corporate government stuff we're living under. And I'm talking about the corporations right down to the courts, in which they're run for profit. The judge gets, 30% of all the take? No, we don't have any proper courts in this nation. We don't have the rule of the people or the rule of law anymore. We need to revert back to the original 13th Amendment. That's the Great Reset. Put the attorneys in their place and hash that out. It's got to be ironed out. We need to get rid of the Internal Revenue Service. We need to return sound money. We need to do a lot of things, folks. There's so much work to be done. If I was a young person and knew about all this, I'd be looking forward to it, realizing that whatever I wanted to do for work, it was going to be available. I'd be able to do that to my heart's content. I mean, look at the history that has to be ferreted out and the truth that has to be told. Henry Ford said all history is bunk. He said that for a reason. He understood the big picture. I'm not saying the man's hands were totally clean. We got that little fire in Chicago to talk about, and the wood he was able to sell as a result. All right, folks. May Yahweh bless. May you bless Yahweh. May you return to Yahweh so that Yahweh can step in and fight for you, fight for us. so that Yahweh will restore our republic and bless America once again, so that America may once again become good. Thereby, America can become great. That's all I got for you. Yahweh bless. Over and out.